And this year they are slightly improved, I would say, if not like well improved. So they should take a jump. It's just, we've said that about Arizona for multiple years now, and they just don't seem to get it right. And like you say, we're going into the third year now of as head coach and general manager. They are really on the hot seat. And I think another man who's on the hot seat must be the quarterback as well. I think Arizona fans are rightly starting asking questions of, is Kyler Murray our guy to take us to a Super Bowl or to even advance us forward?
Last year, when everything broke down, when Trent Williams wasn't there, when McCaffrey wasn't there, when you got receivers in and out of the lineup all year, the offensive line is just getting more banged up as the year goes on. Like, Brock Purdy still had such good numbers, and he's making plays on his own. The way he uses his legs, he's so smart at feeling pressure and moving. And I feel like he is so underrated. Obviously, you are, of course, a Seahawks fan. How did you feel watching all these parts move in the off season?
Loved it. Loved every single one. Every single deal that they did. Loved. He makes plays that other quarterbacks just can't do, and he does it week on week. He makes plays that Mahomes makes, but when Mahomes makes it, it goes viral. When Stafford makes it, it's just another Stafford play. He really is a sensational quarterback, but my issue is with Stafford. He's kind of like, he's like Han Solo at the end of Empire Strikes Back, when he's frozen in carbonite, and right now Princess Leia is just unfrozen for the season. It's like, oh, come on, Sam. Come on, Matthew, you ready? But is he ready? Like, he has had so many injuries, and this back one is one that has hampered him throughout his career.
Hello, everyone. Cecil Martin here.
Hey, this is Hunter Henry. What's up, man? This is Max Crosby, part of Raider Nation.
Hey, this is Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman.
Hey, it's Tyler Lockett of the Seattle Seahawks.
Hey, this is Jerry Judy, wide receiver for the Denver Broncos, and you're listening to the 14-Yard NFL Podcast.
We've made it. The 2025 NFL season is right around the corner, with the Philadelphia Eagles hosting the Dallas Cowboys to open the season in just a few days. I'm Sam Moores, and you're listening to the 14 Yards NFL Podcast. And on today's episode, we will wrap up our 2025 division previews by diving into the NFC West. Our division looks to be very competitive this year. Joining me to do that is a first-time guest. He's a US sports writer for both the Mirror and the Express, and also coaches in the second tier of American football in the UK. With the Scunthorpe Alphas. Welcome to the podcast, Charlie Wilson. You looking forward to the season starting?
I am very much so, Sam. It's good to be on the podcast, first of all. I'm very much looking forward to it. This is the best time of year now for me. Like, summer's coming to it. Summer's been great, but I'm ready for autumn and I'm ready for football. And quickly, I'll have to correct you because the Scunthorpe Alphas have just been promoted, so we are now a Premiership team. But let's go.
There you go. Perfect news. And yeah, it's been a really fun summer following all the stuff in the BAFA divisions this year as well. We've done lots on that over the last couple of years as well. If you want to go check the back catalogue. All right, let's dive into the final episode of the series. Just as we have done in every episode so far, we'll kick off things by telling the story of the last year. Then we'll break down each of the four teams in the division, and then we'll predict the win totals for the upcoming season at the end of each preview as well. And this time a year ago, we were asking whether the 49ers could retain their title and avenge their second Super Bowl defeat by the Chiefs, but their season just went completely wrong. It was plagued by injuries from start to finish. Started running back Christian McCaffrey started the year with an injury that crept up as the season started, and then as week one started, it was like, okay, McCaffrey is banged up, and he played just 4 games before being ruled out for the rest of the year, whilst their offensive line also got mega banged up as the season went on. Brandon Ayuk tore his ACL and MCL midway through the year too, and from there the season just fell apart for them, winning just one of their final 8 games, dropping to a 6-11 record and finishing 4th. That collapse allowed the Rams to win the division in a close race with the Seahawks, beating Seattle to the division after winning the strength of victory tiebreaker. That's the second season in a row that Seattle have been forced out of the playoffs on the strength of victory tiebreaker. Sean McVay's Rams had a poor start to the year, going into their bye at 1-4, starting slowly and losing 3 one-score games due to a lack of rhythm offensively without Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, who both suffered injuries in the first couple of games. But they won out their bye in week 7. They got their 2 receivers back in week 8, and from there they just hit the ground running, going 9-3 in the final 12 games of the year to go 10-7 and secure the division. And with that win, obviously got the right to host a home playoff game as the 4 seed, and they beat the 15-win Vikings before going right. 14-win Vikings before going right to the wire of eventual Super Bowl champions, the Philadelphia Eagles. That game came down to the very last play of the game. And yeah, they had a great season from a team that started 1-4. Obviously, the strength of victory tiebreak cost Seattle their chance to go to the playoffs for their first season in Mike Macdonald's tenure. Despite going 10-7, it was a pretty decent first year for him as a head coach. They came out strong, winning 6 of 8, but then they were one short of making the postseason, becoming only the second team since 2015 to miss the playoffs with 10 wins. The other was the 2020 Dolphins. And then finally, the Cardinals showed strong signs of growth in Jonathan Gannon's second season as a head coach, starting the year 6-4, starting out hot like Seattle. It was a very basically, the Cardinals and Seahawks started out hot, and then it was the Niners were bad, and the Rams came in and swapped something at the end. It was a very weird division. But again, the Cardinals fell at the final hurdle. They are very inconsistent. They won just 2 games coming out of their bye, and they fell to 8-9. And that sets up a really interesting division heading into this year, because it should be one of the most competitive title races in football. The Rams look ready to defend their crown. The Niners are healthy and should have a much better defense this year, and still have all the star players they had when they were in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. And then the Cardinals and Seahawks have both had really active off seasons to try and push for the playoffs after just missing out last year as well. Do you think this could be the best division in football this year?
Best is hard to quantify, really. For my money, Sam, I think it's the most open division in football. I really do think any of the 4 teams could win it. Which isn't great because we're on a prediction show, but we'll do the best what we can. If I could make it the best, it's going to be really, really wide open. I think we'll know pretty early. We'll get signs of what we think will happen, but all 4 of these teams are 1 injury away from going from 12 wins to 5. It's a really wide open division. And like I say, I'm looking for, as a Seahawks fan, I'm confident, but we'll have to see next weekend.
Okay, for the final time of this series, we'll move on to our individual team breakdown portion of the podcast now. And as we have every episode, we'll start with the reigning champions, who are the Los Angeles Rams. Obviously, Sean McVay's team left it late last year, but once they got going, they were their vintage selves, outdrawing the Bills in a shootout. Finishing the year by holding teams to under 10 points in 3 straight games before losing to Seattle in a game that was ultimately meaningless at the end of the year. With that run at the end of the season, they become the first team in NFL history to sit 3 games under 500 and reach the playoffs in consecutive seasons. They've done it twice in a row now. But once they get going, they're really, really good. And their division title win last year was the 4th time they've won the NFC West since Sean McVay took over from Jeff Fisher in 2017. And in 6 of those 7 seasons, they've had winning records, making the postseason 5 times. What a job that Sean McVay has done, carrying on a team from winning that essentially been rebuilt 3 times, and they still carry on with this. They're thereabouts every season. Do you think he'll go down as one of the best coaches ever?
He's approaching that conversation. It might be a little bit too early to say that, but he's absolutely in the conversation of best offensive coaches of all time. I mean, Sam, his play calling is fantastic. He's 3 steps ahead of some defensive coaches, and it shows every Sunday. The way he schemes open his guys is the best in the league, bar Andy Reid. He's fantastic. And the way they've rebuilt their defense has been incredible.
Yeah.
The sort of Moneyball approach after losing Aaron Donald to rebuild him in the aggregate with 4 really good guys who can all do different things. They maybe have improved their defensive line after losing Aaron Donald in 1 year. That is nothing short of incredible. The general manager deserves a ton of credit for doing that, and Sean McVay is a huge, huge part of that as well. So he's in the conversation.
Yeah, and that's crazy, because a few years ago we were saying, is he going to carry on coaching? Because obviously there were a lot of rumors that he would retire. Despite being in his 30s. The roster looked depleted that year after the Super Bowl win. Then Aaron Donald retired the following year, and then there were a lot of rumors about, maybe I'll go do broadcasting. Amazon have got the rights now. Will they? Will go sitting next to Al Michaels for Amazon? Obviously, in the end, it ended up being Kirk Herbstreit, and he has carried on coaching, and I think that's probably the right decision, because you look at the future of this team, and they had a tremendous draft class in 2023. They found 3 starters in Steve Avila, Brian Young, Kobe Turner. They doubled their win total. And then last year they found 2 more starters in their defensive line. Jared Verse, obviously won Defensive Rookie of the Year. Braden Fisk as well. They found Cam Kinchins at safety as well. Again, so it's 6 starters really in 2 drafts. And there's other guys there that are big role playing players. And obviously this is a team that hasn't had that many picks either. And it's mad to think this is a team who were
FM picks.
We're gonna. Yeah, exactly. That's it. They were gonna. They were all screw those picks the whole way through. And then the final move to get Stafford again, fuck those picks, and then now their like whole roster is drafted by Les Snead, and it's like he's done. You mentioned it earlier, but he's done such a tremendous job to turn this roster around for the 3rd time, hasn't he?
He really has. Even the way they've rebuilt the offensive line. Drafting Puka was just, they didn't know he was going to turn into what he is now, but it looks like a genius move, right? And Sean McVay is obviously has a huge part in Puka's success, the way he schemes him open, the plays he calls. I do think they have some weaknesses, which I'm sure we'll get into, the Rams, but the way they've rebuilt their team from a team that won the Super Bowl, 4 years ago now, almost a completely different team and still right up there with the best teams in the NFC.
This year is a really interesting year for the Rams, actually, because this current iteration of their roster is sort of nearing the end of its lifespan. Matthew Stafford, he still is in the superstar quarterbacks in my terms in the league. He's still a top sort of 6-7 guy, absolutely. He only has 2 years left in his contract. He's turning 38 in February, and there is an out in his contract after this year. The money is only guaranteed for 2026 if he is on the roster at the start of free agency. So again, he could retire, and the Rams could have a really good amount of salary cap to them, maybe make a push somebody else, or so the way they've dealt with Stafford's contract is really good. And obviously the way that this team's so young, that whatever happens after this year, they're going to be in a position where they can contend again with or without Stafford. But this is the last year probably with Stafford, if not next year. And they've had a really active free agency to try and take that next step and get Stafford that second ring that many people feel like he probably does deserve off the everything he had to deal with in Detroit and the way he played in Detroit with everything going on as well, and then obviously coming to the Rams and getting that ring finally. Obviously, the big move, you could say, they moved on from Cooper Kupp. They came to an agreement over a release after they couldn't find the trade partner. That's the end of an era, really. You mentioned, that this is a new team, and it is like, he's one of the only players that played in both Super Bowl games and then carried on and has played for years after those as well. And he's been on all 3 eras of this team. And it's sad to see a player like that move on, but they upgraded a position, bringing in Devontae Adams in free agency. That was the big move, and he's just come off his 5th straight 1,000-yard receiving season, despite playing in just 14 games last year and playing for 2 teams as well. What do you make of this move?
Listen, Devontae Adams is a fantastic receiver. Obviously, we all know that. And to this day, he's still a crafty route runner. Will get himself open for 2 years to come. I just do find it a little strange after not even a down year, really, from Cooper Kupp. He still had a really productive year, but have moved on from him. It does seem a little bit of a strange move. Do they think that Devontae Adams is that much of an upgrade over Cooper Kupp, even to pay him as well, which they did a huge contract? I find that a little bit strange, personally. I would have probably kept Cooper Kupp and invested the money elsewhere, like at linebacker, which they really, really need it. But at the same time, it's Devontae Adams, Sam. He could easily dominate and make that look silly. So it's a swing, and the Rams have to take swings at this point to get back to the top. They needed to do something. They couldn't really just do the same thing and just hope our guys will be a year better. They've taken a swing, and it's one of the best receivers of all time. So you can't be too mad. I just think Cooper Kupp is still a fantastic receiver, and especially for their offensive scheme.
Yeah, they're similar ages as well, which, obviously if Adams is younger, you'd be like, oh, okay, but they are similar ages. And I think obviously Adams has stayed healthy a lot more in his career, and that's maybe what they're thinking. Obviously with the injuries they had last year, that could be, Adams has been reliable for his entire time in the NFL pretty much. And that might be where they're thinking. And they've made other moves as well. They had a Puna forward to their already stacked defensive line to hopefully improve their run defense, which is sort of their issue last year. They've added some sort of really good depth in key positions as well, which is where they've sort of come unstuck. They've signed two new backup tackles. They've got Cam Robinson waiting in the wings. If anything happens there, they signed Jimmy Garoppolo as a backup quarterback as well. They feel like they can win games with Jimmy Garoppolo if Stafford has to miss a couple, because ultimately the main thing there is keeping Stafford healthy and making sure he's ready for the postseason. Now, and again, because he's had this back injury coming into camp, I won't be surprised if Garoppolo does get a game or two at some point, because of Stafford's injury history. He does sound like he's ready to play in week 1 right now, so it might not matter at the start. But again, it's great. He knows the system. Obviously, playing with Kyle Shanahan for all those years, and obviously the most important thing is keeping Stafford healthy for the postseason, because Matt Stafford is a quarterback who has consistently delivered in the big moments. They almost beat Philadelphia last year because of Matt Stafford. If they go all the way this year, it would likely be because Stafford's played, contributed really well, and because of he's a big moments player. If they were to do that this year, if they were to win a second ring, do you think he's a Hall of Famer?
Oh yeah, I think he probably already is. Yeah. He's sort of the trendy man's Hall of Famer. Like not a lot of people give him respect that he reserves, but like the offensive guys who really love football, really appreciate. I'm not an offensive guy, I'm a defensive guy, but I can appreciate how good Matt Stafford is. Seeing him play against my team for 4 years now, he makes plays that other quarterbacks just can't do, and he does it week on week. He makes plays that Mahomes makes, but when Mahomes makes it, it goes viral. When Stafford makes it, it's just another Stafford play. He really is a sensational quarterback. But my issue is with Stafford. He's kind of like, he's like Han Solo at the end of Empire Strikes Back. When he's frozen in carbonite, and right now Princess Leia is just unfrozen for the season. It's like, oh, come on, Sam. Come on, Matthew, you ready? But is he ready? Like, he has had so many injuries. And this back one is one that has hampered him throughout his career. And like, he's getting up there in age. Like, can he stay healthy throughout a 17-game season? And if they don't keep Stafford healthy, the drop off is significant to Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah. It is a drop, but again, I feel like they can win games with Jimmy Garoppolo. They can. Yeah, and that's all they need to get through it and waiting for Stafford to come back. And so I feel like even if Stafford does go down, it's not the end of the world. The priority is getting him ready for the end of the season, really, if anything. If you were to pick a weakness in this team, what would it be?
I think it's a back seven as a group. Their linebackers, I'm shocked that they traded away Ernest Jones. I don't know why they did that. He's a fantastic linebacker and on a average contract on about $8 million a year. They really need someone like him. I think their cornerbacks are an issue. Akella Witherspoon makes plays, but he's not consistent. He can be targeted. And Darius Williams had a really, really struggling season after rejoining the Rams. I think you can go after him as well. The safeties, Cameron Curl is a okay safety. Cameron Kinchens, again, rookie, pretty solid rookie year, but makes boneheaded mistakes, can be a bit of a liability. So I think the back seven as a whole are a concern. And I do think Poona Ford was a fantastic addition because he's going to make up what Braden Fisk lacked. Braden Fisk got a little bit overrated because he got 3 sacks against Seattle. He had 5 sacks on the whole season. He didn't really have the best. He had a good season, but he's not the best run defender. And Poona Ford, that addition will make up for what Braden Fisk lacks in the run game.
Yeah, I love that too. And with the corners as well. Yeah, they're okay, but they're serviceable guys. But let's not forget that they were one of the teams that were pursuing Jalen Ramsey again. So should they feel like they need it mid-season, have a look at them trying to pursue a corner, because they do. They've literally done it. At the trade deadline, I wouldn't be surprised if they did make a move for a corner, because probably the one thing you could say, like, this defense could, because they've got so many young guys who are just so good, and if you just get a corner in there, you can think, okay, well, this could transform something. And it leads us on to the win total now. The bookies have set their lines at 9.5 wins, whilst they face the 18th toughest schedule. So a pretty nice schedule for a division winner. Are you over or under 9.5 wins? Which way are you going?
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to Stafford's injury, right? If Stafford stays healthy for 15 games, it's over all day. So let's just say he stays healthy. I do think the Rams will come extremely close to winning this division. If not winning it, we'll decide at the end. I'm going to go over though, Sam.
Yeah, and I'm going to go over too. I think I feel like they've just the way they set up this team is great for the next couple of years as well. You know, I hope they can get Stafford far in the playoffs, as you know, sort of swan song of his career, and then the fact that they made that deal with the Falcons last year to get an extra first round pick for next year. Yeah, that's great, because then you can use that in a future draft to try and get a quarterback or move up and everything as well. So they're in a very, very good position for a couple of years. The Rams, and they're sorted. And again, I feel like they probably are. I don't know, but I think there's two teams I think can seriously win this division. I think the Rams are one of them. Okay, we'll go north to Seattle now, and we'll talk about the Seahawks, who surprisingly made quite a few changes ahead of this year for a team that won 10 games last year. You know, from the outside looking in, you could say that Mike McDonald's first season went pretty well, winning 10 games, and but they've had major changes after missing the playoffs in 2 straight seasons for the first time since 2009, and that was the year before they hired Pete Carroll. So they've never missed the playoffs twice in a row under Pete Carroll. General manager John Schneider has completely overhauled this offense this offseason, moving on from several players who were stalwarts in the Pete Carroll era. As free agency began, they parted ways with Tyler Lockett. He spent 10 seasons with the team, initially starting as an all-pro kick returner, but then he started to be involved more in the passing game, and he wanted to have 4 straight 1,000-yard receiving seasons and 5 straight years with at least 8 touchdowns between 2018 and 2022. 3 years later, they traded the man who had paired with Lockett to create one of the most sort of formidable duos in the league for several years in DK Metcalf. He posted at least 900 yards in each of his 6 seasons in Seattle, and he's gone to Pittsburgh for a second-round pick. 48 hours later, they traded the team's starting quarterback for the past 3 seasons, Geno Smith, to his old buddy Pete Carroll's new team, the Las Vegas Raiders. Carroll, of course, coached Geno Smith to 2 Pro Bowl seasons before he set the franchise record in completion percentage and passing yards last season. So Geno's had 3 really good years as a starter at Seattle, but he is now in Vegas. And after the 2 sides broke down over sort of negotiations for a new contract, Seattle wanted to get younger and weren't willing to offer Geno Smith a year with a contract of multi-year security. So he was traded to Vegas because that franchise is in a sort of different direction to Seattle. And he splashed out to replace him, signing Sam Darnold to a 3-year, $100 million contract after his breakout season with the Vikings. And then meanwhile, they brought in Cooper Kupp after his release from the Rams to pair with Jackson Smith-Njigba, who becomes the receiver 1 in his 3rd season now. There's a completely new offense this year, really. Obviously, you are, of course, a Seahawks fan. How did you feel watching all these parts move in the offseason?
Loved it. Loved every single one. Every single deal that they did. Love. Geno Smith was good. He was a really good quarterback for us for 3 years. The issue with Geno is he's 35 years old. His athleticism is waning. His arm strength will wane. And he's not a good leader at all. And it killed the team at times, and they needed to move on. It was just time. Like the fan base had soured on him a little bit. He'd soured on the fans a little bit. He's a bit of a diva, is Geno. He's one of those who likes to look up his own name on Twitter and reply to fans. But I don't want to trash Geno too much. He's a fantastic quarterback. He's probably the 12th best quarterback in the league. But for what the Raiders were willing to pay, like $40 million a year over a 3-year deal, I don't think that was the right move for Seattle. The Seattle are a young team ascending. Geno's probably at his age a win-now quarterback. Seahawks shouldn't really have paid that. I'm glad they moved on. Good luck to Geno. And I'm excited to see what Sam does. The thing is, with Darnold's contract, it's one of those where you can get out of it within a year. And if he struggles, okay, that's a shame, but they can move on. Again, though, ever since they traded Russell Wilson away, they've needed to draft a quarterback. They finally did it this year, but I think they still need to take more swings at quarterback, even so. But to answer your question, I think the move to change the quarterback was a right move.
And what do you think about the receiving core now? Obviously, it probably does look weaker than a year ago because obviously you don't have the sort of third guy, you could say. But I mean, Smith and Jigba is he's a future star in my eyes. I think he's a great receiver, and then obviously the Cooper Kupp. We mentioned Cooper Kupp a little bit earlier with the Rams, and what do you think that he'll bring to the Seahawks offense with Kubiak as the new OC as well?
Yeah, so JSN will be the one. JSN was the number one guy last season, even with DK Metcalf here. He's the number one guy. Seahawks will be in the new scheme, the new wide zone scheme. They'll be very, very run heavy. A lot of 12 personnel with 2 tight ends and then with 2 wide receivers. And so Cooper Kupp, he might be the 4th choice option on this offense. He'll probably, JSN will be the number one guy, and he'll be the guy to back him up. He's still capable of making plays, right? They probably gave him a little bit too much money, but I mean, for the kind of guy he is, the leader he is, what he can bring to JSN, it's arguably a step down, but I'm just excited to see more JSN. I'm excited to see a run game that will help JSN, but will help Cooper Kupp. And there's a third guy who may not be on a lot of people's radars named Torrey Horton, who is going to surprise a lot of people this year.
And then that run game has been so. I mean, it was key the last couple of years because when Kenneth Walker was healthy, the Seahawks played quite well. It was always when Walker wasn't in the lineup that's when they kind of went to pot really on offense, wasn't it?
Yeah, Kenneth Walker, he's sort of like the free trial version of Saquon Barkley. Like, whenever he gets the ball, he just does things. You're like, oh my word, how did you just do that? There's one play where he flips over a linebacker and keeps running. Like, he's an insane athlete, Sam, as you know. And they just need to get the offensive line right in front of them. And there's been a lot of Seahawks fans who are like, oh, wow, look at our offensive line. Brian Baldinger put one clip of Gray Zabel, we're going to have a great O-line. I'm not sure. I think we should temper expectations a little bit. Even if their offensive line is average, which has not been, Sam, since 2014. If it's average, Kenneth Walker could have a monster season, and that is what Seattle will need to compete with the top teams this year. Let's see if the offensive line will be good, but good signs so far, but I would temper expectations a little bit. We've got a lot to see from the center, Jalen Sundell, who's basically a rookie. Right guard Anthony Bradford, who's been terrible for his 2 years in the league. Abraham Lucas has been injured nonstop at right tackle.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of question marks with them. But if they can get it right, they could be a really exciting offense. And one that has been written off, and rightly so, because there's a lot of question marks, but they could surprise a lot of people too.
I feel similar about the Seahawks this year as I did about the Vikings last year, where I was like, they could win 5 or 6 games, they could win 12 or 13 games. I think they're one of these teams where perhaps Seattle more than most teams in the league, where I literally don't know what version that I'm going to see. But they intrigue me because should everything go well, you like to think, this should go well. And the offensive line has been that's been the sort of the big weakness. It was last year. Junior was the most pressured quarterback in the league last year, to 3rd most sacks. That is a worry for me. Because I think Donald is slightly worse with pocket presence wise than Geno Smith is, so that does worry me a little bit. And again, like when Charles Cross has played, when Abraham Lucas has played, they've shown promise. Well, obviously they can't really stay healthy, and that's And then I really like Gray Zabel. I think he's a great pick. Guy who can play in multiple positions. He start a left guard if there's injuries. He can move as well, which is really key for for that aspect. And then I'm not, again, the centre and right guard I'm not confident either with. And then we'll go on to the defense now, because that's the bit I'm interested in really, because it's it was 11th best in terms of scoring defense last year. Not much has changed to it either, really. But it's probably got better. Obviously, Uchenna Nwosu is coming back. They've added DeMarcus Lawrence as well. And then what do you say is the best part of this defense?
The best part of the defense is, you know what? It's actually quite hard to answer. The thing with the Seahawks defense is they are devoid of superstars, barring one, which we'll talk about in a second. They don't have anything like, oh, wow, we need to shut that down. But at the same time, Sam, I think that works to their advantage. They are really good everywhere. And that's what Mike McDonald wants in a defense. It's, I'll show you this hand, I'll slap you with this hand. But that's the kind of thing he wants to do. He doesn't want to be, oh, we've got to watch out for Boye Maffey off the edge. We've got to watch out for Derek Horowitz. We've got to watch out for everyone. That sort of misdirection works really well for Seattle. They are really strong on the defensive line. Leonard Williams had a fantastic year. How he was not an all-pro player is hilarious. Byron Murphy, I love Byron Murphy, but the way Seattle uses him really angers me. They put him at nose tackle and 2-gap when they should be at 3-tech. Like, let that guy be one-on-one and pass rush, but I'll not go into that.
Well, in the league, coming into the league, everyone said, "Oh, this guy's like Aaron Donald too." That's the way you want to use him. Getting after the quarterback. It's exactly it. Yeah.
And then we have him 2-gapping against 2 guys, and he doesn't. So frustrating. I'm hoping they put Jerome Reed inside there and let Byron Murphy, because he was really held back last year. It was very frustrating. But linebacker, they have 2 really strong guys in Ernest Jones and Tyrese Knight. And I'll go on to the superstar who I referenced a second ago. Devin Witherspoon is just fantastic. He doesn't have the numbers interception wise yet, but man, is this guy smart. Like, he flies around the field. He sees things before they happen. He makes plays that aren't in his zone. He covers men that aren't him, and he's just fantastic. He's such a cerebral player. He's the guy that I would expect to have a really big year this year in the new system.
Yeah, for when I was, we'll do the strengths and weaknesses, but now when I was looking through it, I was like, well, there's 2 areas here they're both on defense for me, and it is that defensive line, obviously Williams, Jaron Reed, Byron Murphy, the interior of it especially. Although the pass rushers I think are quite underrated as well, as you mentioned there. I think Boy Murphy, he's one of those guys that people sleep on quite a lot, and then obviously no ways to come back as well. And then again, the defensive backs, like Witherspoon. If you just start, Julian Love's really underrated, I think, in my opinion as well. Kobe Bryant had he had a good year last year as well, and obviously Tariq Woolen's he's a bit like Marmite, but he's a playmaker as well, and that's it is. And then obviously they've added to it as well. Obviously Nick Amanwari as well, being drafted in the first round. I'm really excited to see how. I think it might be slow to start off with, but how McDonald uses him will be. I think they could do similar to what they did in Baltimore with Cole Hamilton, in that way, because he's got such an immense physical profile. You could use him in multiple ways. You could use him off the edge. You could pretty much play him at a linebacker. You could play him in deep safety as well. And it's and that's this Ravens defense has got so popular. I think 6 or 7 teams in the league are now running this scheme. There's variations of it. The Chargers one's a bit different, but it's the same. And the 3 safety look, and then you look at these 3 safeties. You're like, the defensive backs in this team I think are brilliant as well.
Yeah, Kobe Bryant is exactly what Seattle needed him to be. He was a corner when we drafted him, but he's turned into the free safety who just sits in the deep third and makes plays. That allows Julian Love to do what he does and come down, make some big stops in the run, flies around the field, like you said. Really, another underrated player. Seattle have a lot of these players who are just really good, and they are paid like they are average players, which is really, really good for us. We have a lot of guys at every position that's really, really deep. The one thing they lack is a superstar. But then you could argue, do they need that? Baltimore's defense didn't really have a superstar apart from Kyle Hamilton towards the end, and they were one of the best defense in the league. So I think when Mike McDonald got to Baltimore, his first year was rocky, and his second year they dominated. Now he's in second year with Seattle. I expect them to take another big jump this year.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see this defense. Before we get on to the predictions, do you is there any other area of the roster that concerns you other than the offensive line, or is it purely the line that thinks could be a worry?
I mean, quarterback, right? It's Sam Darnold is the ultimate unknown. Like, I've watched his Vikings game so many times, Sam, and he was so good. Like, stepping up in the pocket, like making throw. He looks like a completely different guy from what we've seen of him before. It's just, will he turn back into a pumpkin? Will he turn back into what we know of Sam Darnold was before this year? If he is 90% of the guy he was in Minnesota, Seattle can go really, really far this year. If he turns back into what Sam Darnold was at the Jets, then that's a big concern, right? It's a huge concern. And my other concern would be the linebacker next to Ernest Jones, Tyrese Knight, who was just a rookie. I mean, you can find off-ball linebackers, right? So I'm really nitpicking here, but that would be my concern on defense, especially as a linebacker coach. I'd pride myself on us having good 2 linebackers, and he's the one. He's a good run stopper, but he not so much in pass coverage. So that would be my other concern.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's a very interesting year for them, really. I think the line with the bookies at 7.5 wins, I think is about right because I feel like they could get. I feel like they could get in the playoffs, but then I feel like they could, if the offensive line's not there, I feel like it could go to pot of Sam Donald. So I think that's. I think I don't know. It's hard my prediction. This seems it is. I don't know. I think it may be about the same as it was a year ago. I feel like. I'm trying to figure out which I'm going here. To be honest with you. Do you know, I'm going for the under. Screw it. The offensive line is a concern for me, and I think there's obviously a lot of turnover as well, and that might take time to work. And with Darnold, if everything's going well, I feel like he can execute right. But if there's if there's obviously tight end, we don't know what's going to happen there. We'll see what AJ Barner turns out. Obviously Arroyo from Miami, and then with with Donald, under pressure, I just don't trust him. I feel like if you look at his numbers in terms of turnover-worthy plays last year, he was really lucky to not have more turnovers. And obviously, if you actually look at it, in that aspect, I am a little bit worried, so I'm going to go for the under. But I think 7-8 wins is about right. I'm just going to go for 7 rather than 8. But I feel like the Seahawks going to be very competitive this year. I'm assuming you're going for the over.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah. I hope your listeners don't feel like that I'm being a homer, because I am not the type of fan who believes his team is better than what they are. I've been down on Seattle for a very, very long time. Yeah, I think they're going to win the division this year. I think
nice.
I think they won 10 games last year with a embarrassing offense, with an offensive coordinator who just wet the bed for Alabama yesterday. Doesn't know what he's doing, quite frankly. They now have an NFL guy with a good offensive line coach and an improved line. I think they'll win 11 games, which should be enough to win the division.
Nice.
But we'll see.
Nice, I love it. I think that would be fun, because that's not what the majority of the pundits think. Obviously, the bookies they have the lowest odds in the division right now in terms. So yeah, that would be really fun, and I'm here for it.
They did last year. Too. Last year they had Seattle at 7.5 wins. They won 10 games. So
yeah, there you go. I hope I'm wrong. Let's go say that. Right, okay. That leads us on to Arizona, who head into their third year with Jonathan Gannon as head coach and Monte Ossenfort as general manager, and they doubled their win total last year from 4 to 8. But sadly for the Cardinals, I think the sort of overwhelming feeling was disappointment, because they won just 2 games after their bye, and they fell from the lead of the NFC West at 6-4 to 8-9, and that's just a really interesting year this year, because there is a big sort of magnifying glass hanging over this organization now with the way that season ended last year. Obviously, third year, the average tenure of a NFL head coach is around 3 seasons. It's rare that a coach who doesn't make the playoffs in his first 3 seasons is retained for a 4th season. Now Gannon heads to his 3rd season. He is 6th in the NFL coach to be fired odds. So the pressure is on. And should Arizona fail to make the playoffs again, ownership may choose to make a change. Now, I think that would be the wrong decision, because I think the Cardinals are in a very, very good direction. But because this is a tough decision, you can. I feel like at the end of the day, they had quite a few division games at the end of the year last year, and that's why they fell away. You can see that this coaching staff is improving players. There's lots of players that have improved over the last years from obviously the last regime, and I feel like they've been building something these past few years, and they've continued that this offseason. They've been one of the highest spenders in free agency. Offensively, they haven't really touched much, because they were pretty good on offense last year. They were 11th for total offense, 12th in scoring. The defense was the issue. They're 21st. So Ossenfort has made some moves to give Gannon some more talent on the side of the ball that he specialises in. Obviously, he's the DC in Philadelphia before he got the job, and their big acquisition was the signing of Josh Sweat, who reunites with Gannon after the pair worked together in Philadelphia. He actually had his career year with Gannon in Philadelphia as well, totaling 11 sacks in the regular season and a further 1.5 more in the playoffs. And then last year he had 8, which is a pretty decent season for a guy who is a rotation player in Philadelphia. And then in the Super Bowl, he had his big game. He sat Patrick Mahomes 2.5 times, and as the Eagles really put a stomp with a 4-man rush in that game as well. But they haven't stopped there. They did more on the defensive line. They've basically copied the Eagles' blueprint of loading out a defensive lineman and rotating them in, and they've added Calais Campbell, Darren Tomlinson in free agency. Then they drafted Walter Nolan and Jordan Burch in the early mid rounds as well. And if this defense can take the next step, that they're hoping, the Cardinals could be onto something because you've got pieces there. I think they are well coached, right?
I think they are well coached, yeah. Especially, I mean, the thing is with Cardinals on defense is they just don't have good players. At least for the last 2 years, but they've been working with really bad players. And this year they are slightly improved, I would say, if not like well improved. So they should take a jump. It's just, we've said that about Arizona for multiple years now, and they just don't seem to get it right. And like you say, we're going into the third year now of as head coach and general manager. They are really on the hot seat. And I think another man who is on the hot seat must be the quarterback as well. I think Arizona fans are rightly starting asking questions of, is Kyler Murray our guy to take us to a Super Bowl or to even advance us forward? I mean, this guy has bags of talent, but I mean, the turnovers are just killers. I mean, the boneheaded mistakes for not being able to link up with DeAndre Hopkins, not being able to link up with Marvin Harrison Jr., and not getting the best out of the talent that they have, making the offensive line look worse. Kyler's a talent, but I think questions have to be asked about him too.
Yeah, absolutely. He's heading into his 7th year now. He's coming off only his 3rd season where he's played in every game, which is obviously a big factor as well. The fact he's not been able to stay healthy, and after this year, he only has 1 year of guaranteed money left in his contract. So 2 years guaranteed. There have been more and more rumors about maybe they're not going to like release him. They're not going to Daniel Jones him. They're not going to like, oh, we're moving on from this guy or anything because he's too good of a player to do that. Right? The problem is he's not being consistent to win titles. We saw that in their 1 year with Kingsbury where they started out, was it like 9-1 or something? They started out and then fell away at the end of the season and he got injured. The thing is, like, I really like him. The upside's there, obviously, but because he's been so inconsistent, his numbers look average pretty much since he won Offensive Rookie of the Year in 2019, obviously. And where you get ups, you get downs, and at the end, it's nice having ups and downs. It's fun. Obviously Josh Allen has loads of ups and loads of downs, but because it's more ups than downs, he's got away with it. Whereas with Kyler Murray, it's very much like a steady level, and that's it's not been great. And after the way it ended last year, 1 win in 6 games. After the bye, he threw 5 touchdowns to 8 interceptions before the final game where he had a very good game. He played really well, and but in that stretch last year when they fell away again, it's because he played poorly. Ultimately, at the end of the day, like the upside's there. We saw that in the game against the Niners last year. At the end of the season, threw 4 touchdowns, scored 47 points. Like, but then before that, again, 1 in 5, they fall away from the playoffs. 5 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. It is an interesting conversation because say maybe the Steelers next year are looking for a quarterback. That's a destination. You think, oh, Kyler Murray. They may, if the offer's right, they may choose to move on because of the way the organization is. And I think that this is a huge year for him to say, your 2020 form, your 2021 form where you were really good. If you can get back to that, you might get a new contract here. If you don't, we'll see what happens, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I think he really does need a strong year of just, it's more consistency than just really, really good games here and there. It's just, can you be consistent enough to not make mistakes, not do too much and lose us games, rather than just consistently win us games and do what needs to be done at quarterback rather than pressing and making throws that aren't there and not looking and staring down your receiver and making what you're doing look very obvious. It's a big year for him, like we say, and there's a lot of teams who could do with Kyler Murray, there's a lot of teams a lot of better quarterbacks. I think of guys like Justin Herbert, even Trevor Lawrence, even of guys who have been in trade talks here and there. Could Arizona think, is that an upgrade for us? Could we consider flipping Kyler for one of those guys and a few picks here and there? Kyler needs to, I know a few Arizona fans, and a lot of them question whether Kyler is the guy to take them forward. I mean, from the outside looking in, we see Kyler here and there just make really good plays, and you're like, wow, that is a talent. But over a consistency of a 17-game season, it's just not been there.
That's exactly. He's been consistently inconsistent, you could say. And again, you have that's exactly what he's been. I think he is in for a big year because it matters now. It does matter. He started last year really, really well. If you look at numbers, he's in and around top 10 for the majority of the year going into their bye week, and then after that, it did fall away, and it is such an important year for him. And the thing you mentioned now, a few minutes ago, you were saying about he couldn't really make it work with DeAndre Hopkins. He couldn't really make it with Marvin Harrison. That is so key in going into Harrison's second year now, because it was iffy last year, and that was the guy that was brought in to help Kyler.
Exactly, yeah, and it ended up being Trey McBride, who is also a fantastic player, but they have to get the most out of Marvin Harrison Jr. I think Marvin Harrison Jr.'s rookie struggles are being a little bit overstated. I mean, he had 900 yards, 8 touchdowns in an offense that was not ideal for him at all.
He made Jalen Ramsey look stupid in the Dolphins game as well. That's like one of his best games, and that kind of killed Jalen Ramsey. He wasn't the same after that either, which is now he's playing safety for the Steelers. So that's one of those where you're like, I completely agree, and I think we'll see what happens with Kyler there, and again we'll go on to the defense. We'll go on to the sort of strengths now. What would you say is like the big strength of this team? Because I think there are a couple.
Yeah, I mean, the offensive weapons, number one. I mean, we just talked about Marvin Harrison, who, I mean, like I say, didn't have the ideal year, but he's still a fantastic talent, right? Like, if they can get the most out of him, we're talking about one of the best receivers in the league, potentially, and they probably do have the best tight end in the league, right, outside of Brock Bowers and Trey McBride. That guy is just a fantastic guy who weirdly couldn't get a touchdown all season, but fantasy-wise, he wasn't great, but in actual NFL terms, he's fantastic. He's a great mismatch. He's one of those where he's enough to win you a few games here and there. And I think on defense they have talent now. I love Calais Campbell. You'll know, Sam. Like he's one of those guys that he just makes plays in the run because he's so long. Like it's so hard to maintain blocks at him. He'll get on someone, shed you off, and then so good.
I'd love to know how many batted passes he's got, because he's got to have so many with the way he can get his arms up. Like it must be in the hundreds at this point of how long he's played. Yeah, I think it's close. I mean, obviously the guy we've not mentioned is James Conner. He was obviously he's reached 1,000 yards in the past 2 seasons. He had a career high of 1,508 yards from scrimmage last year as well. Obviously he's a very good running back, and a big factor in his career year last year is the offensive line. You mentioned obviously Kyler makes the offensive line look bad sometimes, but that line is good as well. So you've got a run game, you've got a great offensive line. You've got Trey McBride, you've got a receiver in Marvin Harrison. I think Michael Wilson's quite an underrated receiver as well. And then there are a lot of ingredients here for the Cardinals to explode, aren't there? It's just whether it actually happens.
Exactly, yeah. Like I say, offensive line is pretty good. It's a pretty good offensive line. James Conner is one of those guys that like every year people expect the guy below him to like Trey Benson this year. I was like, oh yeah, Trey Benson, that's the guy. Like James Conner's still really good. Like he's not like he won't just take the ball and score an 80-yard touchdown, but he's going to get you 6 yards of carry. Like, and that's what Arizona wants. They want to get into second and short, third and short, and James Conner is an underrated back. They have talent all across the field, except for in the back seven, which I'm sure we'll get onto in a second. Yeah,
well, that is sort of the big weakness, and obviously Buda Baker, great player, but beyond him, Buda Baker's great, but beyond him, it's not good. Like the cornerback room is very young. Obviously, they've lost Sean Murphy-Bunting for the year for a knee injury, and that's not helped whatsoever. And so now it pretty much relies on first-round pick Will Johnson. The good news is that it sounds like he's had a very, very impressive training camp, and Cardinals beat writers are really impressed with him, which is good for a rookie, because he had high draft status, but then fell in the draft to Arizona. And but no, that cornerback room is it's young, it's not great, and and again the linebackers again. Well, we don't. It's I'll let you have the floor on it, but it is the big weakness, the back seven for this team, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean the linebacker, especially. I mean Mac Wilson, who's just fine. Like, well, the other guy, Akeem Davis-Gaither, like, I mean that's a weak point right there. I mean that's a B gap that's going to be wide open every time that they run at him. Just not big enough, undersized. Max Melton is an okay corner, but I mean he's going to get targeted. Will Johnson is a rookie. Rookie corners, it's a lot to ask coming against NFL receivers. Buda Baker is a great player, but it's getting older. Like, is he going to drop off a little bit? And if he does drop off a little bit, that's going to be huge because he's made up for so many bad plays on the Cardinals defense. So even if he drops off 10%, that's huge for Arizona. I think that's going to be their big weakness, the back seven.
Yeah, okay, that leads us on nicely to the prediction part of the breakdown. Before we go on to the Niners, now they face the 23rd hardest schedule. So the Cardinals got a really easy schedule, one of the easiest in the division. And because of that, their line is at 8.5 wins. I'm going to go for the over. I think this is, it is an improved team from last year. Obviously, they won 8 games last year. I also think it's a big improvement year for both the quarterback and the coaching staff. And I'm projecting that they're going to buy into that. It could go horribly wrong against like Seattle. They could win 10 games. They could win 5 games. I feel like these two teams are very, very flexible in that aspect. I'm going to go for the Arizona's have the better season than Seattle, so I'm going to go for the over. But again, I could be massively wrong. And yeah, which way are you going? Over 8.5 wins.
I'm going lower. I think we both agree that any team could win this division, right? And there's such a most teams could win 6 games and they could win 13. I think Arizona's cap's probably like 11, 12. But I personally think that they're the weakest team in this division, so I'm going to go on the under.
All right, let's wrap the podcast up with the Niners, who are perhaps the favourite to be like the best, worst, or like the most likely worst to first team, because they had no business on paper being last in this division last year. But obviously they played in the Super Bowl prior to last season. Many of those players that played in that Super Bowl against the Chiefs still remain on the roster today. In fact, this is a roster that we did like a big combined power ranking episode just before training camp, and the Niners ranked 7th in that. They're a very, very good roster, and we'll talk about what went wrong last year and everything later on. But on paper, this team really should bounce back this year, shouldn't they?
They can. I'm not sure whether they should. I think they're getting older. I think their best players, arguably, Trent Williams is one of the best players Trent Williams, in my opinion, is one of the best players of all time. If he struggles even a little bit, their offensive line is shot. If their offensive line is shot, their offense is shot. Brock Purdy needs Trent Williams to be that guy, and he's missing time with injuries quite a lot this season. Their upside, their ceiling is the best in the NFC. Like, they have so much talent, but I worry that their most talented players are on the downside now, and they have huge concerns at wide receiver as well. So whilst I agree they could easily win 13 games, I think they could also win 6 or 7.
Well, that's it, and that's what they've been with Kyle Shanahan. The whole time they've been a very, very odd team. They've reached 2 Super Bowls in their time with Shanahan. They've made 4 NFC Championship game appearances. But they've also come last in the division 3 times. And they've had 4 losing seasons. So basically in Shanahan's tenure, he's going into his 9th season. In the 8 seasons, they've had 4 NFC Championship appearances and 4 losing seasons. So basically, either going to have a terrible season or they're going to reach a championship game. That's literally been the way it's been with Shanahan the whole way through. If you were to pick the one that you think is most likely, the losing season, 5, 6 wins, or the NFC Championship game appearance, which way would you go?
It's hard to say. So my answer is that I'm sitting on the fence at 8 and 9. But I guess if I had to choose one of those, I'd probably think they would struggle, because I just worry about the injury of their star players. Like, they have literally no receivers. They might start Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who just got cut from Seattle a few days ago and looked past it. Juwan Jennings is probably the best receiver who's healthy right now, is holding out. Traded away Debo about time. Brandon Ayuk's injured. But there's already these things going against this bad juju that the Niners have had injury-wise recently, and it doesn't seem to be getting any better. Christian McCaffrey, of course, he's one of the best players in the league, but he's, so injury-prone. It's just nervous. You got to be nervous about his health moving forward every game. If they stay injury-free, they're going to win the division, but I just can't see that they are because they're not right now. So I would lean towards them struggling, Sam.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? I feel like it is. I think it's the noise this year is a lot quieter than it was last year, which is like last year it was doomed from the start. I think really. I don't feel like that's the case. Obviously, you've got Ayuk to come back. I think Jennings eventually will play, and everything. Like, obviously, he's not had camp, but normally in the last week of this week of the season, normally is when most deals get done as well. So you've got that to bear in mind as well. And again, I think Ricky Pearsall, obviously he's going really high in fantasy drafts. Everyone thinks he's gonna have a big year, and obviously a lot of it is how much of the ball he's gonna get right away. But also, I think obviously going into his second season now, that's huge. That's huge as well. And I think they'll be back to their best this year. Again, should everything not go mental, I think it's look. This time last year, we were very much in the McCaffrey, and then the injuries started to happen. Obviously, we had the Ayuk contract thing this time last year as well. It was all this chaos, but it was a lot louder than it is now. I feel like now, as well, and this defense. The main thing I'm backing on is this defense being a lot better this year. Really, if I'm being honest with you, because the biggest move of the season probably isn't even a player; it's the return of Robert Saleh. If I'm being honest with you, they were very injured in defensive calls last year. Dre Greenlaw was out for most of the year after tearing his Achilles in the Super Bowl. Javon Hargrave, again, big free agency addition, played just 3 games. Talanoa Hufanga missed half the season, and then it came out after the season that Fred Warner was playing with like an injury that whole season, and yet he still had an incredible season because he's Fred Warner. But it's like, it's like he was banned up last year as well, and it's like. Yeah, but it did start last year. It was decent against the pass, but that was about it. Like, if you look at the basic numbers, 8th in terms of total yards, 4th in passing, you're like, 18th in rushing. It doesn't look very bad. But then, situationally, they were so bad. Only the Cowboys were worse in the red zone last year. They allowed opponents to score a touchdown 68.4% of the time. They also were in the bottom 8 of the league in 3rd and 4th down defense. They also allowed opponents to score on 44% of drives as well, which was the 4th worst in the league. And they also missed 87 tackles in the run game, which according to CBS is the most missed tackles on running plays since 2017 as well. And obviously that's just poor coaching, and that's why Nick Sorensen was fired and replaced by Robert Saleh, who obviously was the DC from the very start of the Shanahan era to when he went to go take the head coaching job with the Jets in 2021. Obviously, great news that he's back because he is a very good defensive coordinator. As a head coach, you can say otherwise, but this unit should be better than a year ago, shouldn't it? Really?
I don't know. Like,
really?
I mean, I mean, look at their linebackers and their cornerbacks and their safeties.
They got younger. They've got younger. That's the defense. You mentioned it older. The defense has got younger this year. Now they've needed to do that for a while, but it's whether, Does
that mean that they're better? I mean, is Upton Stout going to be a great player? Is Lennar is now is a great nickelback. He's now moving to outside cornerback because they've lost Javarius Ward. I mean, linebacker, they've lost Dre Greenlaw. They've lost Hufanga at safety. I think they've lost some really big players. I'm not sure, but I mean, Michael Williams is a really good addition. He's going to set the edge for them. He's what they needed. But even on their interior, like they probably going to be relying on two rookies to stop the run. I think that's a lot. I think they're in a weird place, San Francisco, because they've gone all in. They've paid Brock Purdy his huge contract. They've paid Ayuk. They paid Christian McCaffrey. They're probably going to pay Juwan Jennings, but at the same time, they've got a lot of these young players who are, we don't know a lot about them yet, but they could grow into something. But they're in kind of win now mode, and they don't have win now players in key positions. That's why I'm concerned about them personally. But I will say positively, Robert Saleh is a fantastic addition, and he could easily, him alone, make them an improved defensive unit. But I do think you have to have
I think part of the reason why I'm sort of this high on him here is because he's working with Bryce Huff now. They've just brought him back from not back, but back with Salah. Obviously, he had him with the Jets, and they traded from Philadelphia. And that was an interesting situation in Philadelphia because obviously couldn't really get the game time and everything But with Salah, obviously before he signed that big contract with the Eagles, he had his career year, 10 sacks, and again, they've obviously Nick Bosa there. That's scary enough. If you can get a guy who Robert Salah's worked with and has got 10 sacks out before, and then when all the attention's on Bosa, then I feel like that's having a guy who can do that is huge. And obviously, will he be able to do that after his bad year last year? We don't know, but I really do like that move as well. And again, we'll see. A lot of it's relying on young players, obviously, like I said, Upton Stout and Michael Williams and Alfred Collins and Renardo Green, second year corner, is probably going to play outside as well now after obviously Ward and Yarden went. It is an interesting one. I don't know. I'm higher. I think this team. I really like Brock Purdy as well. I'm one of these guys where last year when everything broke down, when Trent Williams wasn't there, when McCaffrey wasn't there, when you got receivers in and out of the lineup all year, the offensive line just getting more banged up as the year goes on. Like Brock Purdy still had such good numbers. And he's making plays on his own. The way he uses his legs, he's so smart, feeling pressure and moving. And I feel like he is so underrated as a quarterback. I think last year was such a good step for them because they saw that he could do it to a level where he could perform well when everything around him is going wrong. That's something that people have had concerns about with Brock Purdy. And I think last year, again, I'm really high on this team because of what I saw Brock Purdy do last year when everything was going wrong. And, I think obviously this year, I feel like he should have obviously with receivers coming back eventually. You've got McCaffrey. They've added Brian Robinson as well, which I feel like is great for maintaining McCaffrey in that aspect. Obviously, it was good. Like this offense was good last year. This offense, 4 total yards. Yeah, that's the thing. Right.
DBOA,
exactly. Yeah. But when it should be really, really good now. So I'm just banking on that. I think McCaffrey is their X factor. Really, everything goes through him. If you just keep him healthy, if you can use Brian Robinson, the red zone is where they struggled last year because they didn't really have a back. Brian Robinson's really good in the red zone as well, and that's another thing. McCaffrey's immense in the red zone because you can use him in so many different ways. I just feel like I'm confident. I think it's gonna be a good year for the Niners. The bookies have their line set at 10.5 wins. I'm part of the reason why as well. The one I'm going for the over. Spoiler alert. Part of the reason why is because they have the easiest schedule in the NFL.
They do.
And that's the big thing. And then last year they had the hardest schedule in the NFL. So they've gone from one extreme to another extreme. I felt that they are better in some areas this year to what they finished with last year. Maybe not what they started with last year, what they finished with last year. And I feel like it's rare you have that kind of injury misfortune 2 years in a row. It's, it's rare you have turnover luck twice 2 years in a row. It's rare that you win so many one-score games 2 years in a row. I feel like, and it's rare that they do have 2 losing seasons in a row. It's normally NFC Championship game and NFC Championship game losing season, and then maybe they're in the streak and don't reach a championship game this year. The NFC is really strong, especially after the Micah Parsons trade. And the top of the NFC is really strong now. But I thought this is a playoff team. If this team was not in the playoffs, they should. Again, I keep saying the word "should," and that's they should be in the playoffs. So I'm going to pick them to be in the playoffs. But again, I completely understand what you're saying because they are such an unknown, like the rest of this division. Which way are you going? 10.5 wins.
So I'm also going to go over, but only because of the strength of schedule. Yeah. They have a cakewalk schedule, and they can probably start Ricky Pearsall as their WR1 and play MVS and play Kendrick Bourne, whether they have as their 4th receiver, and probably win 11 games. I think they'll be a really good regular season team. I just think they'll struggle in the playoffs. I think they'll struggle stopping the run in the playoffs. I can't see them getting back to the team who it was 2 years ago when they had all their star players in more so than the prime years when guys like George Kittle are coming towards the end of end of their best year, CMC, Trent Williams, all the guys we spoke about earlier. So yeah, I can see them being really good in regular season, and I just think there's too much talent in the playoffs to beat them.
Yeah, no, I think I can see that. And again, I feel like if they play the Rams in the playoffs, maybe obviously one of them as a wild card team, maybe the Rams can beat them. I feel like Philadelphia can beat them. I feel like maybe Detroit can beat them. We'll see what kind of Lions team we get, and then obviously the Packers now can beat them as well. Yeah, and then you may get another emerging team in the NFC as well. I think it'll be wide open. But yeah, no, I think they'll be there purely because of this schedule. Really, if we're being honest, yeah, absolutely. Right, that's it. Obviously, bold takes on me. I'm gonna do a big prediction just before the season, so I'm gonna hold off on mine. But obviously, you got Seahawks winning the division, which is yeah, bold.
Yes, I'm not confident about it. Right, I think if every team is at their best, Seahawks could easily lose the division. Right, they could finish fourth. But for me, I do think, Seattle won 10 games last year, and they were bad on offense, like really, really bad. And now they should be average, and I think Seahawks will have the number 1 or number 2 defense in the league. So that's why I do think they'll win the division. Rams easily could win the division. 49ers easily could win the division if everyone stays healthy. It's so, like we said at the start, Sam, such a wide open division. You could, I think, all 4 teams could easily win seasons. It's exciting. It's hard to pick, but I'm going with Seattle.
Nice. I agree with you. I feel like all 4 teams could make the playoffs. Absolutely, and that'd be really, really fun throughout. Especially the NFC West games like in division are always mental as well. Like always some random results, and obviously that could really change everything towards the end of the season as well. Well, that's it for the episode today. If you enjoyed the episode, leave us a quick rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, because it really does help us push up the charts and everything, and I really would appreciate that. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit the like button. Obviously, hit subscribe if you've enjoyed the episode today. And remember to turn on the notification bell, which is next to the subscribe button, because that means that you can get notified every time we upload. And obviously, the season's here. We're going to be uploading a lot over the next couple of months. Well, a big thank you to you, Charlie, for joining me on the podcast today. It was great having you on for the first time. Where can the listeners find the work that you do?
Thank you very much, mate. I really appreciate talking NFL today. We are so close to getting back to it. Only a few days to go now, mate. People can find me at Charlie Reach PLC on Twitter, or on X as they call it now. On the Daily Mirror, wow. Daily Mirror and Daily Express.
Thank you to you guys for going through the whole podcast. I'll next see you in midweek, which will be either Wednesday or Thursday, depending on the availability of my guests, which I've got lined up. We're still waiting on that. So we'll be looking ahead in that episode to the kickoff game, the Sao Paulo game, and then we're predicting the entire week 1 slate as well. And we've got something else, London Plus Sleeve as well, which I'll reveal next podcast as well. So until then, enjoy your weekend. Well, the end of your weekend is Sunday now. Enjoy the next couple of days before the season starts, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.